Hi guys. So this is the video that you can use to figure out exactly what you're expected to do with the project for this semester. Please don't forget that this project is worth about a third of your grade, so you will want to make sure that you take the time to do each of the steps correctly. So in a nutshell, what you're going to be doing is analyzing a work of historical fiction. Now, this can be a movie. In fact, I would assume that most of you will choose a movie, but you're not bound to a movie. It can be a movie, it can be a book, it can be a play, as long as it is set in the past and is historical fiction, you are allowed to use it. Now, it does have to be within the scope of the course, so that means the first part of American history up through 1877. So when you choose your topic, just make sure that it falls within the scope, and that'll be roughly 1492 to 1877. So as you're analyzing, I want you to think about a couple of things, and I want to start with a few brief notes from a book called History by Hollywood that talks about the use of popular films in learning history. So this first quote suggests that above all, Hollywood producers and their underwriters seek movies that will bring handsome profits, and if attention to historical fact gets in the way of relating interesting sagas that will appeal to audiences, many of them will readily compromise the facts. So in a nutshell, history is not literature and literature is not history. They share some commonalities, but history is a little more complicated than your traditional narrative structure. So if there's a competition of sorts between historical fact, if you will, and the story arc that they're trying to create, then they're going to go with the story arc. Why? Because they are bound by a different set of rules. History by Hollywood goes on. If we hold cinematic historians strictly to the standards of most written history, we are almost certain to be disappointed, for filmmakers must attend to the demands of drama and the challenges of working incomplete evidence. In creating historical dramas, they almost always need to collapse several historical figures into a few central characters to make a story understandable. Often they are pressed to simplify complex causes so that audiences will comprehend their movie's principal messages and not lose interest. And the dramatic medium often leads them to attribute changes in history to the actions of dynamic individuals rather than to impersonal forces. So what this is suggesting here is that these movies and historical fiction books serve a different function than documentaries or traditional written history. They are set in the past and they're meant to illuminate the past in some way, but more than that, they're meant to illuminate the present. They're meant to illuminate a specific moral lesson or a specific view of the past, and in that, they teach us more about their audience than they do about the past. So there are four principal methods of cinematic history, four principal functions that this type of fiction uses. One, they mix facts with fiction. So there's a little bit of fact in there. There's a little bit of fiction in there. They oftentimes play kind of loose with the blend of the two. Number two, they shape evidence to deliver specific conclusions. So there's a purpose in the movie. There is a why in the movie. There's a moral lesson, or there is some sort of parallel that needs to be drawn, or some sort of message that is being conveyed. And they will, kind of shape the history to match that message. They often suggest a message for the present in stories about the past. This is where they're trying to do it as a warning tale. They use history as sort of a warning tale or as an allegory for some issue in the present. And they sometimes employ a documentary style to develop a great man perspective on the past. This great man perspective relates to the idea that one individual or one small group of individuals can affect a level of change that is generally actually driven by a series of collaborative forces. You can see this in a number of different movies, in particular the biopic style movie. Because they're focused on one individual, they make it, these movies or books make it seem like that individual's contributions led inexorably to the outcome in the end. So what you're going to do is you're going to analyze a piece of historical fiction, a book, a play, or a movie. Note that this is not a film summary or a film review, but is rather an analysis of the interpretation of history being offered by the work in question. That means that beyond what actually happens or what just happens in the film, you need to consider the context of the film. What do you think its audience is? What do you think its purpose is? What's the political or cultural climate that surrounded its production? When was it produced? So that you can start to figure out what the creator was trying to say about the past and why. If a film summary or film review deals primarily with the who, what, when, and where, this analysis deals more with the how and the why. So, why are they doing this? What is the primary purpose of this film? And then how do you know that? The how do you know that and how are they trying to convey that message becomes your evidence. So step one, this is what's due first, is your topic choice. You need to bring in your choice of historical fiction, film, book, or play for approval in class. It has to fall within the scope of the course, and this step should include the name of the book, play, or movie you've chosen, and the historical subject that the work depicts. This step must be typed. Submissions that are not typed will not be accepted and must be resubmitted with the late penalty. Step 2 is the research step. You'll be providing a 1 to 2 page summary, main characters, plot points, narrative arc of the film or book, and a bibliography of 8 scholarly sources, at least 2 of which must be books that pertain to your topic. This is the topic, the historical topic covered by your film, not your film itself. So don't go into Galileo looking for articles or books pertaining to your specific film. Rather go in and look for the historical era or historical issue that is described by your film. They do have to be scholarly sources, which means that they are peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed means published by an academic press or within a peer-reviewed journal. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask me or the librarian on your campus, because they will be able to help you with identifying scholarly sources. You do have to arrange these in bibliographic form, following the Chicago Manual of Style. And for those of you who have never used the Chicago Manual of Style before, I have included a workshop here under Film Summary and Research Bibliography Step 2 that you can complete. It's a series of videos beginning with why we cite and when we cite, all the way down through the basics of Chicago style citation. I would highly suggest completing that if you're not familiar with the Chicago Manual of Style. It is very different from MLA or APA. All right. Step 3, I have provided a worksheet on D2L under Step 3, and you will be answering those questions in complete sentences with specific evidence from the film or book. These questions are designed to help you think more critically about the work and will be the basis of your analysis, but not the entirety of it. So every semester I tend to get a paper that is essentially just the analysis worksheet turned into paragraph form, and that's not effective analysis. In order to turn your analysis questions into an analysis paper, you're going to need to identify your thesis and structure your argument. Here are the questions from the worksheet that you'll be answering. Please note that you'll be identifying things like background, the main characters, the plot, the theme, historical accuracy, and then an overall summary. These are just designed to get you to think harder and more critically about the film or book. In Step 4, you're going to take the evidence that you have amassed and the thesis that you have identified and organize your ideas into a coherent argument. You're going to need to provide a thesis, key points, and evidence within that outline, and you'll be graded on the organization, clarity, and strength of your thesis and evidence. So make sure that your outline is well developed. We will discuss proper outlining technique in class so that you'll know what form I'm looking for in the outline for your paper. I've provided the rubric for your outline, and I will give feedback on your the organization of your argument after or while I'm grading it. Step 5 is your analysis paper. This is a 4 to 5 page paper, which is not a summary of the work in question, but rather a critical analysis of the historical interpretation offered by the film. You'll be working from your outline and using the evidence accumulated in your analysis questions, but this will be where you put those ideas on paper. It does have to be typed and double-spaced, 12-point Times New Roman font, 1-inch margins, and a bibliography in Chicago Manual of Style. The bibliography must include at least 4 of the sources that you identified in your earlier bibliography. And here's the rubric for your analysis essay. The final step is your presentation. You'll be delivering a 5-minute presentation with visual aid on the interpretation of history. The dates are already scheduled in the course calendar, and you may offer or may volunteer to go on the first day, but you may not volunteer to go on the second day. After I have gone through all of the volunteers, we will just be proceeding in random order through the rest of the class roster. You are required to attend both days. So even if you present on the first day, you have to come on the second day and vice versa, or your presentation grade will be reduced by 50%. And here's the presentation rubric. If you have questions about the resources that are available to you, there is an assignment guide available created through the library, or you can pop into the library website or into the Douglasville Library to ask any questions that you might have. In D2L, I have provided you with a historical fiction project module. It has an intro to the historical fiction project, your library assignment guide, and then instructions for each of the steps. The due dates can be found in the calendar and on your syllabus. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I look forward to working with you on these projects. Thank you. Bye-bye.